Why are evangelical Christians so tied up with Donald Trump? Why are so many evangelical Christians drawn into the MAGA movement? And how did the Republican Party overwhelmingly become the home of evangelical Christians? And I want to explore these things in a series of 4 videos that I'm going to make. It's too much to do in one video, even by my rather long video standards. I just don't want to have a video going 2 or 3 hours. So I'm going to break it up into smaller pieces. And this is the first of 4 videos, because I think Donald Trump is merely a symptom of something deeper that is going on within the evangelical movement. And I really want to think about, and I've been thinking about, how do we get to this point? How do we get to the point where evangelical Christians are overwhelmingly aligned with the Republican Party and overwhelmingly supporting Donald Trump and the MAGA movement? In the last several elections, about 80 Republican candidates get about 80% or higher of the evangelical Christian vote. That's why I say it's overwhelmingly in that camp. And so I've been thinking about this, and I wanted to just share a few insights that I think I might have. I know that people are going to disagree with these things, and it's going to really be provoking and kind of pushing against where some people are at. But I do think it is helpful to maybe take a look outside, and sometimes it's good for even somebody like me who would be considered by most people an evangelical, to be critiquing my own movement, to be examining and engaging in some self-reflections. One of the things that I was thinking about is that evangelical Christians see mainline Protestants, progressive Christianity, that they are compromised and corrupt. Mainline Protestants vote mostly Democratic. So they point to their ties to the progressive liberal movement and say, now this is why you're so compromised and corrupt. This is why you've gone off the tracks when it comes to following biblical Christianity. But I was thinking about this a little bit, this critique that evangelical Christians throw against progressive Christians, and began to look and reflect on, maybe we're missing the boat a little bit. Maybe we're not really self-reflecting like we ought to, by just merely pointing out that those liberal Protestants, mainline Protestants, they're all Democrats. They're evil, they're bad, they're corrupt, they're compromised, without even looking at our own selves. I was thinking about what Jesus said in his Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 7. He says, "Judge not, that you not be judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." I think this passage really speaks to the idea of evaluating what the measure is, what the standard is that we're judging, that we engage in judgment over what is true and false Christianity. And a lot of people will say, well, progressives, they just deny the Bible and the teaching of the Bible and all of that. But I think that's too simplistic, because evangelical Christians are really judging progressive Christians for their alignment with the Democratic Party more than anything, I would suggest to you. And the standard they are using to judge progressive Christians for alignment with the Democratic Party, progressive Christians are using it to judge evangelical Christians for their alignment to the Republican Party. And I would suggest to you, and I've been thinking about this, that the standard of judgment or the measure that we're using is not the Bible. Both sides use the Bible, but the standard of judgment is not the Bible. Rather, it is the social and cultural preconceived biases that Christians of various stripes have. In other words, the standard by which we're engaging in evaluating who's good or bad Christians or faithful, unfaithful is not the Bible, but it's become more social and cultural. It's become more political in nature, and it's not biblical in nature at its core. Yes, we use the Bible. Both sides use the Bible to critique the other side. But there's something deeper, I think, at the heart that's going on. And I think part of the problem is that Scripture is getting twisted to justify political stands, rather than being critical and critically examining both political parties in light of Scripture and finding how both political parties fall short and how both movements, both progressive Christians and evangelical Christians, have a lot of growing to do in understanding what the Bible teaches. Instead of recognizing those things and all come together around the Bible and say, let us study the Scripture and let us learn from it and let us grow from it, we become unaware. We have a log in our eye that makes us unaware of being able to, aren't able to see clearly, to take the speck out of our brother's eye. And the big log in the eye of the evangelical Christian church right now, the evangelical Christian in the United States, is I believe that we are not sufficiently aware of our own compromise, our own corruption, our own idolatry, our own worldliness. And because of that, because we're not able to self-reflect and examine and see where we fall short, it's hard for us to speak to those that we would call mainline Protestants or progressive Christians and say, hey, we need to talk to you about your faith and your practice. We've got to deal with ourselves first before we are able to deal with other groups in the Christian tradition. And part of that polarization and the political polarization with the mainline Protestants being with the Democrats and the evangelical Christians moving to the Republican Party, both of those with that polarization is reflective of a greater division within the Christian church in the United States that I do really think that we need to wrestle with and we need to talk about, because until we can understand what's going on there and understanding how we got here, it's hard for us to be able to critically look at what's going on in political parties, in society and culture. I put it this way, it's like a fish swimming in a polluted lake. A fish swimming in a polluted lake has no idea that they are in a polluted lake. They may be sick, but that's all they know is being a sick fish in a polluted lake. And evangelical church, the compromise and corruption, the idolatry, the worldliness, it's just the pollution that we're swimming in, and it's making us sick. But we're not just aware how sick we are because we don't know what life is like in a clean lake. And what we need is we need God to take us out of this pollution and put us into clean water. Yet we seem to be very content swimming in our pollution. And I think ultimately what we need as Christians is to humble ourselves before God and say, give us clean water, help us to see our log in our own eye. help us to understand that what we're doing now is not honoring and pleasing to you as a movement. I'm not saying every individual Christian and every individual church in the United States is corrupt, or that every denomination is corrupt. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it's overwhelmingly compromised, overwhelmingly corrupt. Not that there isn't a faithful believing remnant in the United States, but that it's just that, a faithful believing remnant. And the vast majority of evangelical Christianity in the United States is very compromised and very corrupt right now. And I just want to explore that in these future videos. One of the things that is different between progressive Christianity and evangelical Christianity, I just want to acknowledge this big difference, because as I go through these videos, explaining this, it'll become more apparent. But as I look at things, progressive Christians don't have the same problems that we as evangelical Christians do, because progressive Christianity on the whole has abandoned biblical authority in favor of the social and cultural standards. In other words, the basis of which progressive Christianity operates is swimming in the pool of culture and current social beliefs. So how did progressive Christians become aligned with Democrats? I really think it's rooted in progressive Christian theology and what people would call theological liberalism. When Christianity, and this is kind of what happened with theological liberalism, in a way to kind of put it in a down-to-earth way, is Christianity became merely an earthly religion of people trying to grasp an unknown divine being. The Bible became merely a recording of ancient religious experience. And the Bible being just a human book of ancient religious experience of people in the ancient world trying to grasp the divine, trying to grasp God, became the shape and the formation and the basics of the basis of the Christian tradition, but it's not what is to permanently define the Christian tradition. In other words, progressive Christianity is much more comfortable saying we're okay with denying that the events in the Bible happened. We're okay with saying that Jesus didn't really die on a cross or rise from the dead, that he's not up in heaven now. We're perfectly comfortable saying that the writers of the Bible made mistakes, that they were people of their own time and history and culture, and because of that, we don't bear the burden to try to draw out, despite the fact that they were people of their own time, speaking their own time. We don't need to draw out and try to find meaning in what they're saying. It's just, we could just say that they were wrong. And the Bible is like this religious artifact, museum piece, a work of art that can be interpreted and reinterpreted again and again in every generation. And so that is kind of this view of progressive mainline Protestant Christianity. And that is much comfortable, that worldview is most comfortable in the world of the Democratic Party. This very pluralistic, very diverse world. That's what the Democratic Party has become. And it wasn't always that way, but that's the way it's drifted. The Republican Party has drifted more in the direction of being very exclusivist. Like there's only one way to understand the world, Judeo-Christian values, all these kinds of things. And evangelical Christians are much more comfortable in that environment, but progressive Christians aren't going to feel so comfortable. And so to me, it's worth exploring how Christianity developed in the United States and how worldly ideologies, more, that outside the Bible, have come to shape how Christians have read and understood the Bible. And depending upon which community they are, it shapes their thinking and their very definition of what Christianity is. And because of that, it also shapes, if the definition of what Christianity is very different, how we live our lives, the role the Bible plays in our lives is going to be very different. And part of the problem, though, is evangelical Christians have not done enough reflecting on the worldly, social, and cultural trends that developed how they live and how they view things like politics and society and morals. And because of that, because we haven't done enough reflecting on that, it has become very, how do I say this? It has become a very big blind spot with us. And I want to talk about that in the next 3 videos, to look at things like the Protestant Reformation, to look at how evangelicalism grew and developed, and how the United States shaped evangelicalism, particularly through the 19th century, how the debate between liberalism and fundamentalism shaped and divided the church in the United States, and talk about some of these things that go back into history to begin to understand the division today and why things are so different, but also begin to understand why evangelical Christians would be drawn so much to the Republican Party and drawn so much to the MAGA movement. Because I think if we can begin to grasp and understand those things and think about those things more deeply and engage, especially as evangelicals, in more self-reflection, we will be able to better be biblically faithful Christians and put the Bible back in charge of our lives, and understanding the Bible as the most important guide and director of our lives as evangelical Christians, rather than the cultural trends around us. So much so that we can listen to things like conservative talk radio with a more critical ear, that we can watch conservative news and consume news and politics with a more biblically thoughtful ear and eye, to begin to discern what is good, where we can go as Christians, and where we need to push back and say, no, we can't go there. We're Christians, we just can't go there. And we need to, I think, do that more and more. And that's a lot of what I'm trying to do on this channel. If you're watching to this point, thank you. It's usually only between about 12 and 30%, depending on the video, that are watching all the way to the end. So I do appreciate it so much. I'm going to keep posting these videos as fast as I can make them on this topic. So keep coming back to the channel and check for them. And I thank you so much for watching.